not used it, you're not quite sure how to use online booking through shortcuts, that's what we're going to talk about. If you have any questions after the fact, or if you're watching this video after the fact, you can always reach out to us. So both on our Shortcuts webpage, our Shortcuts customer care, our customer success team is always available, as is our support group. But you can also reach us on social media, on Facebook and on Instagram at Shortcuts USA. So let's actually begin. So the focus on today, online booking through shortcuts. So how do you configure your BookMe settings? How do you add a link, a BookMe link to your Facebook page if you haven't already? And how do you make an appointment for yourself or a family member? So we're going to look at all of the basics. So first things first, what is online booking? How do you get your shortcut system ready for it in case you've never used it? So let's look at configuring the actual shortcuts point of sale. So there's 3 places that are constantly synchronizing in your Shortcuts Fusion, in your Shortcuts point of sale system. One of those is your service menu. And if you notice in the service menu, there's a web checkbox. If you click the checkbox, make sure it's on, then Shortcuts says this service is available for online booking. This is also in the options window when you're setting up your services. Normally that's where you set your times, your prices, your break times. But on the bottom left, there is an option that allows this service to be booked via web or for online booking. So when you're ready to move forward with online appointments, make sure you check the web box or check the box that says can be booked via web. So that's the first place that's always synchronizing through shortcuts. But there's a couple of other places that are always synchronizing as well. So it's not just enough to tell shortcuts what services can be booked online. You also want to make sure that your staff schedules and your business hours are up to date. So with regards to the staff, you have to make sure you have your schedules in. You have to make sure your business hours are correct. But how do you prevent customers from booking the wrong employee for a service? So let's say you only have a few estheticians in your salon or in your spa, and you don't want customers booking a manicure or a pedicure with somebody that doesn't do that service. You can actually create a capability in Shortcuts and say, these are very special services. It could be a color service, a chemical service, an esthetician service, and say only certain employees are allowed to do these services. And that way, only those people's names show up when a customer chooses the specific service. So if you haven't used capabilities in the past, you might want to start looking into it now, even if it's not necessarily for online booking, because capabilities also helps your front desk make appointments with the right staff members. So let's say you hire a new front desk person and they haven't learned what everybody on your team can do. As long as your capabilities are set, Shortcuts will always recommend who should be booked for certain services. So make sure you set your capabilities if not everybody on your team does all your services. So we're actually going to go into the Shortcuts point of sale, and I'm going to point these places out. So I'm going to get out of the presentation for a moment. So in the Shortcuts point of sale, we're under Setup, Services on the right side of the screen. And this is my service menu. So of course, your service menu can be different. Maybe you just do barbering services or you have much more categories than I do. That's absolutely fine. Oh, I'm probably running out of memory on this computer. I should really restart it soon. Let me give it a moment. And hopefully it allows me to do this. All right, I can always close it and launch Shortcuts again. So when you go to your service menu, under Setup, you're going to open up your service categories. So in my case, if I'm allowing customers to book haircuts, oh, there we are. So Setup, and then Services, and Color, for example. If I'm going to let customers book some of these services, in the middle of the screen, I would check or uncheck the services I'm going to allow. So that's the first place you always want to enable that. The other place I mentioned are your business hours. If we go under Setup Configuration, on the left side of the screen, you would go to the General tab, and under General, you're going to Business. Now, in Business, normally this is where you tell the system what your hours are. This synchronizes online. So if you're just coming back from, let's say, the closures due to COVID, you absolutely should update your business hours here. And that's Sunday through Saturday, every time that you're open. The third thing is your capabilities. So if I have certain employees that can do certain services, then at the bottom, well, actually by default, there are no capabilities in shortcuts. You have to create the list. So let's say only one of my employees actually does color services at my shop. So at the bottom of the screen, I would press New, and I would create a category name. In this case, color is the name. And then at the bottom of the screen, I say, which services am I talking about? So I'll go to my color category, and I can pick and choose the individual services that these people or this person does, or I can choose the entire category. In this case, the entire category of color. So once I press done, Shortcuts will ask me, I need to choose at least one employee that does this color service. So at the bottom of the screen, I'll select employee, and I'll say John is the only person on my team that does color. Once I add his name, then whenever a customer goes to make an appointment online, it will only offer John for these two services. So this depends on how big your business is. If you're running a spa, you may have a number of different categories. Your manicure team, your color team, your haircut team, whatever it is. Set those capabilities up. Also remember your employee schedules. Always determine when a staff member is available for online booking. So the further in advance you can do this, the easier it is for customers to make appointments with the correct staff members. So always enter your staff schedules for as far in advance as you can. I would recommend at least 3 months, but if you can go further than that, absolutely go further than that. So those are the places in your actual Shortcuts point of sale that you want to enable ahead of time. Once you've enabled those, then you need to go to the console to tell Shortcuts what are the specific online services. I actually have a question that popped up. Rebecca is asking first time, and I don't know why I can't hear you. Can anybody else hear me right now? I'm just doing a double check. I'm going to put in a message on my chat window. Can anyone else hear me right now? And let me check my microphone. Testing, testing. Can anyone hear me right now? Okay, Lynn can hear me. Rebecca, let me just type in a message. Okay, it looks like. Check your audio settings. May have to turn up the system volume. Okay, and I will send a copy of this video when we are done. So hopefully Rebecca will be able to get the audio up and running. In either case, we will send her a copy, and we'll send everybody that's in attendance a copy of this video. So let's go back, and I'll minimize the question for now. Okay, so Configuring your shortcuts point of sale. That's the first part. This is where you tell the system who can do services and what are the certain services you will allow. The other thing is the console setup. Now, the console is the place where you would go if you wanted to set up surveys for your business. It's the place that allows you to access anywhere. So if you yourself or you're going to give your staff permission to look at their appointments for the week, this is where you set this up. It's a web page called the console. Oh, a follow-up question. Okay. So most of you should hopefully be familiar with it. If not, if this is the first time you're learning about it, you're perhaps a manager or an owner that configured this ages ago and forgot about it, that's okay. So the console, if you don't already have it bookmarked, I would advise bookmark it on your shortcuts computer, bookmark it on your home computer. You're going to go to console.shortcutsoftware.com. And you're going to log in with your email and your password. Now, if you forgot what that is, you can let us know, let the help desk know, and we can reset it for you so that you can access this page. Once you're in the console, there's two specific locations you need to go to configure your online booking settings. And the first is company settings, the second is site settings. What company settings controls is actually the information that a customer sees when they make an online appointment. So company settings includes things like, should a customer get an email after they make an online booking? What should be in that email? Should a customer be able to choose specific staff members? Are we going to give them instructions on how to choose specific services or specific employees? So the instructions are under company settings. The other button that you'll go to configure is site settings. And what site settings controls is the contact information for your salon, for your spa, or your barbershop. So this includes things like your web page, if you have a company web page, your social media pages, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and of course your phone number and your address. This information is always synchronizing to your web page, is synchronizing to online booking. So just double check this. Most of it should already be synchronized from your shortcuts point of sale, but you can always update it here. So company settings are your instructions, site settings are your contact details. Make sure you update both of those. The third thing you're going to configure in the console are your actual BookMe settings. And in the BookMe settings, this is where you tell shortcuts what are the specific times that customers can book in advance. So should customers be able to book a same-day appointment, or is the minimum 1 day in advance or 2 days in advance? If you deal with a lot of walk-ins and you deal with a lot of appointments and there's a healthy mix, you can even set the minimum time for an appointment to perhaps be 1 or 2 hours in advance. So you don't accidentally have somebody walk in at the same time as somebody tries to make an appointment. So you're giving yourself a little bit of breathing room. The other things that you can set here are if customers are allowed to cancel their appointment or to reschedule. Is that a yes or a no? Because like most of you, time is very important. And if you don't want customers trying to change the service once it's set, then you can take away that permission and have them call the salon instead of trying to change it online. So those are just a few of the things you can set. Third would be things like the priority of a service. So if you have a salon, if you have a spa, and you have a multiple number of services that you allow. So if a customer, let's say, was interested in a haircut and a color, you don't want them accidentally booking the haircut first before the color. Usually you do color first. So you can actually tell shortcuts. Color is priority number 1. Haircut is priority number 2. So even if the customer puts the service in the wrong order, online booking will put it on your appointment book in the correct order. So we're actually going to take a look at this. So the console. And again, hopefully most of you are familiar with this. It's console.shortcutsoftware.com. So most of you should have your username, which is your email, and a password that you set. So in here, the 3 links you want to fix or update are company settings, site settings, BookMe settings. Company settings. This is where you can upload a logo. The logo that you put in here will appear on your online booking page. So in this case, it's our Shortcuts logo, but of course you want to put your own logo. The other thing you can do is update your company name or your display name. So of course, our company is Shortcuts USA, but for my pretend salon, we call it Angel's Test Salon. So this is where you can update that information. And up at the top of the screen, you'll notice that it says Angel's Test Salon. So you can call it whatever salon name you want. And then, what is the theme? So the theme corresponds with this background that we're looking at. So this depends, of course, on your logo, the name of your salon, the branding, the house colors that you have. What sort of theme do you want your online booking to have? So if this white gradient is a little bit bland for you, you can absolutely choose one of our other ones. Let's say sunset red. On the right side, if I press the Save button, and if I refresh my online booking page, that background changes in real time. So instead of the white gradient, we're now going to get a red background. Oh, if it lets me. Did I save it? Oh, I forgot. Let's try sunset red. Save. I don't know if I can supersede it. This is my administrator's account. Let me try something different. Let me try midnight black. Nope. Chances are I do not have permissions to do this. Since this is my administrator's account, she probably locked me out of that. You yourself, however, will have the ability to switch backgrounds. But if I press View Themes, I'll give you a preview of what they look like. So these are what the other backgrounds look like. So it's pictures of models, it's different colors, it's different types of colors for fonts, for buttons, things like that. So these are the different themes that we have. So whether you have a salon, a spa, a barbershop, we should have something that complements your business, your look, your logo. And then underneath that, what is the URL for your BookMe page? Now, by default, it's the name of the salon.mylocalsalon.com/online booking. So this will always be the URL for your online booking page. But you can shorten this first portion. So if I wasn't happy with Shortcuts Angel's Test Salon, I thought maybe that's a little bit too long, and I just want to call it Angel Salon, I would change that name here. I would just shorten it to angelsalon.mylocalsalon.com/online booking. And once I saved it, that would become my new address. Now let's scroll down a little bit. If you have a web page, a company website that has Google Analytics, a domain name or a tracking number, you can put that information in here. This will actually allow you to follow your customers, how they found your site, how much time they spent on your site, what are the specific services they're focused on, things like that, along with Google AdWords. So customers that frequent your salon, customers that frequent online booking, this will, of course, try to make sure that your salon, your site, is getting as much information about your customer trends when they're surfing the web. Now, other things to look at. If your salon supports different languages, by default, all of the information, all of the instructions, everything is in English. But let's say I was in Canada and I'm in an area that speaks French, like in Quebec, for example. I can add a secondary language here. And a customer can actually choose which is their preferred language for online booking. Or if I was here in Southern California and we have a lot of Spanish speakers and some of my staff speak Spanish, I can change the instructions and add Spanish as a secondary language. So we do have multiple language support. And we'll scroll down a little bit. So remember, the information in the company settings page corresponds to your online booking information. So this information that says step number 1, choose a category. Step number 2, choose an employee. So this would apply here. Step number 1, step number 2. And notice, you have the ability to update this information. So here's something I added recently, a new rule. You must bring a mask. If you have any cold or flu-like symptoms the day of your visit, please call to reschedule. So I actually added that information right here on the service selection text. Symptoms. It would help if I could spell symptoms. So any special information, you can always update that right there. And I can save those changes. And then with regards to once a customer chooses a certain service, a certain staff member, or they let the computer choose the first employee that they can find, on the following screen, Shortcuts will show you your default business times, and it will say, okay, please choose a certain day or time. So I can actually click this calendar button and say, I'm going to come in this Friday, Friday the 18th, and around my lunchtime, so between 12 and 1 o'clock, this Friday, I'd like to find the first available time. So when I press next, Shortcuts looks at my appointments, my availabilities for my staff, and says, yes, there is a 12 o'clock opening. Would you like to book it now? Or do I want to change it to Sunday or some other day? So in this case, I'm going to go with Saturday because it looks like my Friday's full, and I'll book this one. 12 o'clock on Saturday. So on this window, normally the customer has to sign in and then they confirm their appointment. Now I'm going to circle back to this confirmation because right now we're focused on the instructions. So if you need to update the instructions, if you have to put special steps in here, company settings is where you would make those adjustments. Most of the instructions we have here are pretty good by default. We really don't have to adjust too many things. Perhaps you have to change the information that says service selection text because we do have wording that says select male, female, or any. If your staff is all female or all male, then you probably want to eliminate the male and female wording. Other than that, most of the instructions work for almost all of the salons, spas, and barbershops that we work with. Make sure to save any of those changes. So once you update this information, and here is the confirmation email body. So whenever a customer makes an appointment with you, they do get this email by default. It'll put in the customer's name, it'll put in your address, your phone number, and your site name. So anything in these brackets will auto-populate. Now, of course, not every location likes the word bookings, reservations, or appointments, so you're welcome to change the message. So in this case, it's going to say Angel's Salon reservation confirmation. Thank you for making a reservation with. It'll put in Angel Salon. And again, I can repeat those new rules that I'm talking about. So in this case, just due to COVID, you must bring a mask. If you have any flu-like symptoms, please call to reschedule. Those are my new rules. For the case of your salon, if you have very specific rules, like you must call 24 hours in advance to reschedule, you may have a service charge applied if you no-show during your next visit, things like that. Go ahead and update your confirmation email to include those rules. You can also include those rules in the terms and conditions so that everybody that makes an appointment knows this is part of your store policy. So we'll save our changes, go back to the top, and go to the Start menu. So those were company settings. Site settings is where I can update my contact information. So do I have the correct salon number? Do I have my salon's email? Do I have my salon's address? Is that all correct? So I would go to site settings to double check that. So we'll click on that in the console. We'll give it a moment. There we are. Again, you can upload your logo. I'll scroll down. So I make sure that my social media, my company website is there, my social media is there, and down at the bottom, is my phone number correct? Is my address correct? And of course, if the customer is driving, your location is actually entered automatically so that the Google Maps or whatever device they're using. Oh, how bizarre. Can everybody still hear me? Now, my computer says I actually lost audio. Can anybody hear me right now? I'm going to post a question. It says I lost audio. Can anyone hear me? Okay, I'm double checking because my system says my audio is out. Testing, testing. My microphone says it should be good. Huh. How bizarre. Maybe there is a problem with the audio. Yep, and I have internet. Testing, testing. Can anybody hear me? It looks like I actually lost audio. And let me check the chat window. Okay, can anybody hear me now? The system actually says I lost audio, or the webinar says I lost audio. Yeah, can't hear you. Let me check those settings. Testing, testing, microphone test. Okay. And I'm going to type the message. Can everyone hear me now? Okay, now you can hear me. That is bizarre. Yeah, the audio disappeared completely during the webinar. So as soon as it popped up, I stopped talking. I was trying to restore it. So I didn't say anything that we didn't hear. So I was on site settings and I mentioned this is where you go to, of course, update your information. Oh, somebody has a question. Huh. Well, bizarre. Rebecca still has no audio. Very bizarre. I wonder what's happening with if it's the webinar, if it's the internet. We'll do some troubleshooting after the fact. So let's continue. Thankfully, this is still recording. So make sure you update your contact information. Make sure you update your social media information. So that should be good. And those are under site settings in the console. Yeah, I think we're having internet connections issues, which could explain the audio interruptions. Okay. Yeah, I think it's intermittent internet issues. Okay. The third thing, BookMe settings. So in BookMe settings, the very first questions you get are, when is a customer allowed to make an appointment? If this is set to 0 days, That means a customer can make a same-day appointment. So if I say, no, I'm really busy with appointments on walk-ins from day to day, so I prefer if the minimum was 1 day in advance. So nobody makes a same-day appointment. But let's say you have a healthy mix of walk-ins and appointments, and you actually can take an appointment same day. However, you don't want your staff to be surprised. So I'm going to say 2 hours in advance. That's the soonest you can make an appointment. So just in case a bunch of people walk in out of the blue, I'll be able to handle that. So make your setting adjustment here. And then how far in advance can a customer make an appointment? By default, it's maybe 30 days or 60 days. This is why it's important to have your staff schedules entered at least this far in advance. So I know for certain my staff schedules are in for at least 90 days. So if anybody goes to online booking, I know they'll be able to choose the correct day for any staff member. Is a customer allowed to cancel their appointment if they use online booking? If so, how many days in advance are they allowed to cancel? 1 day in advance? 2 days in advance? If I leave this blank, that means they are not allowed to cancel. Same rule applies for booking change allowed. How many days in advance is a customer allowed to change the service that they're getting? So if I leave this blank, then that means the customer's not supposed to or not allowed to change the service they wanted. It would be better if they called and rescheduled with my receptionist. But I can set either of these. In my case, if my salon is really a barbershop and I have basic services, they're allowed to change the service because I know it's not going to really overlap with anything else. And the rest of this, availabilities with 50% efficiency. What this means is online booking will always allow time in between online appointments so that you can take care of a walk-in. Now, this is critical for my business if I have a barbershop and I deal with a mix of appointments and walk-ins. So I don't want online bookings to be back to back to back with my staff, especially if I get people walking in. I want to have an appointment made online, space for a walk-in, and then another appointment. So 50% is a healthy mix. If I want to tighten up that space for online booking, then I can bump it up to 60 or 70%, and then those online bookings will be closer to being back to back rather than gaps in between. Display a maximum of how many availabilities. So if a customer makes an appointment online, they usually get 10 openings for when you're available. I think this is overkill. We can cut that number in half. So we'll give the customer 5 availabilities, and usually the customer chooses the very first one they see. Now, specials. We're not really going to talk about specials today, but what this controls is on the day that you run an online promotion, an online booking promotion. How many availabilities do you want to show your customers? If I take my promotion serious online, my specials serious, then I can tell shortcuts. I'm going to give my customer 2 openings. So you can either choose the morning or the afternoon, and that's it. Once those 2 appointments have been made for my online special, it disappears for that day. So we'll talk about that in a future classroom sessions. What are specials? Now search a total of blank days after the start date. So what this does is for the salons or the barbershops or the spas that are super, super busy, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, your historically busiest days. If you have a customer and they absolutely, positively can only see you on a Saturday afternoon, and you know for certain your books are filled up, then what this does is Shortcuts will check at least 2 weeks in advance for the next possible opening. So it'll look 14 days for the next 2 Saturdays. Now, if that's not far enough, especially as you start to get busy, then we can open up this window. Maybe we can make it 28 days. So customers that can only come in on a Saturday afternoon, it'll look for the next 4 Saturdays to see if there's a possible opening. So it depends on your business. For most locations, 2 weeks is enough. So then the next portion, service booking order. This is where you help the customer make appointments. So the scenario I mentioned earlier, if a customer wants to get a haircut and a hair color, we don't want them booking the haircut first. We want them booking the color first. So I can actually tell Shortcuts, color is priority number 1. Haircut is priority number 2. So even if they book the haircut first, it puts it in the correct order on my appointment book. Now, if this is a service that doesn't really interfere with anything else, you can leave it at a 0. 0 means it doesn't really overlap or interfere with any other service. You are allowed to have multiple 1s, multiple 2s because they are equal priority. As we scroll down, if I want to actually post surveys on my Facebook page, this is how I select it. Adding the link to a BookMe link to your Facebook page is actually done on Facebook. This is only if you're going to share surveys on your Facebook page. So we'll scroll down. Again, Google Analytics, Google AdWords, and other settings that you might want to check. So are you going to let customers email you a booking request? Yes or no? Do you want to show the prices for your services? Yes or no? So of course, most salons don't show their prices because that's a starting price. Depends on how long the customer visits, depends on the level of the employee that they get. Their default price and their final price may not be the same. So usually you don't show prices. Do you want to show the employee levels? So if you have a staff that has junior, senior, master stylist, and you want to let the customer know, okay, if you're getting a master stylist, you're going to expect to pay more than somebody that's a junior or an apprentice. Now, capture credit card details at confirmation, reject credit cards. This does not let you see the card. It does not let you charge the card. This is really designed as a deterrent. So if you're getting a lot of no-shows, a lot of malicious online bookings where people just no-show you, then you can set this up, and Shortcuts will require the customer to enter a credit card to sort of hold that spot. Again, you don't see it. You don't get to put any charges on it. This is just to sort of scare the customer into thinking they may be charged if they no-show you. So that helps prevent a lot of fake online bookings. If you actually want to charge customers a deposit for their appointment, then instead, on the right side, you want to go to your upfront payment rules. Now, there is a separate classroom session where we talked about setting this up. We're not going to cover it on this session. And I will actually probably cover it on the advanced online booking settings, which will be next week's classroom. So hold on to that question if you wanted to find out more. So other things, do you want to display the service duration about how long their appointment's supposed to be for when they get their email? Or are you going to allow customers to cancel their appointments using online booking? So these are some things to consider. And down at the bottom, if you have a salon that only has a female staff and you don't want to let the customer say, okay, only choose a male employee, you can uncheck these options. So the customer can let the computer choose the first available employee, or if they have a preferred stylist, the customer has the ability to choose the individual employee. So once I make my changes, again, I save those changes. And now the most important things have all been configured. My company settings have been set. My site settings have been set, and I keep losing internet connection. So my company settings have been updated, my site settings have been updated, and my BookMe settings have all been updated. So now my page is ready to start taking appointments. So hopefully I don't lose internet again. Let's go back to the presentation. So if you have a Facebook page, you actually can edit the button that appears near the header, near the top of the screen. So it's a call to action button. It can be something like, here's the phone number for your business, here's a link to my website, or here's a link to make an appointment. So this button is constantly being updated by Facebook, but it's really easy to set. you would choose that call to action, that little pull down button, and you would edit it. One of the options that Facebook has is to make online appointments to do book nows. So you would choose that option, and Facebook says, okay, which service do you want to use? Do you want to use Facebook's built-in appointment version, which of course Shortcuts does not synchronize with Facebook? Instead, you have a second option, which is to insert a web page, a URL that accepts your online booking. So that's the one you're going to choose, and then you would paste in the link to your actual online booking page, so that when a customer goes to your Facebook page and they press book now, it goes automatically to your actual Shortcuts online booking. Now, to make an appointment, either for yourself or another person. So of course, you would choose a service, you would choose a time and a date. You saw me do that a moment ago. But then the third step, you're either going to confirm the appointment is for yourself or for another person. So let's go back to the actual online booking page. So in this case, I chose this Friday or this Saturday, I'm getting a haircut. Saturday is the first opening. I'll go to book now. Now, if it was for myself, I'm getting a barber cut with Amy. That's the first employee that was available. It's about 45 minutes for the service, and it's 12 o'clock on Saturday. So if this was for me, I would just press confirm. And then I would get an email saying, okay, this is the day and the time of your appointment. You're going to have it with Amy. We'll see you then. Let's say I was making an appointment for a friend or a family member. This is where I would press the plus button next to my name. And I can add as many accounts as I want. So if I have multiple kids, I can say, okay, this is going to be a child. So I would put in my email, because of course I should be in control of my kids' appointments. And then I would put my kid's name. So let's say I'm putting my kid here. And then I can put her birthday in if I want. And let's go back in time, and I'll choose a random date. And of course, the phone number would be my phone number. Once I add, now I have the appointments for myself or my kid. Or I can keep pressing the plus button and maybe create an account for my wife or create an account for somebody else. So I can make an appointment for whoever I want. In this case, it's going to be for me. So I'll confirm it. And just like that, I now am going to get an email. And if this was my computer, I could put this appointment on my calendar, or I could share the link on Facebook and Twitter, say, hey, I just made an appointment at Angel Salon. You should check these people out. So let's go back. So now that has been the complete A to Z on online booking. So all of the basics that you should know. You should know now how to configure your settings in the Shortcuts point of sale system in Shortcuts Fusion, how to add a link to your Facebook page if you haven't already, and of course, how to make an appointment for yourself or a family member. It's very easy. Probably the hardest parts are just getting everything configured. Once it's configured, online booking pretty much takes care of itself. So now we're actually going to open up the floor for questions. So we will be sharing this presentation on our company page, also on our YouTube page, and of course you can always sign up for more presentations. So we'll open up the floor for questions. So on the right side of your screen, you should have your little question bar. And hopefully you heard that last portion of the audio. You're probably writing down notes. So if anybody has a question with regards to online booking, the floor is yours. Okay, somebody might be typing in a question. I'll give you a moment. And I'm sorry that Rebecca never got any audio. That's very curious. But I'm assuming that it might be a setting on her system or her Windows or her Mac, whatever it is. Thankfully, she will get a recording with audio this afternoon. All right. I don't think we have any questions. Okay. Well, if you're watching this video after the fact, again, you can always reach out to us, our customer support team, our customer success team, and of course, we're always on social media. So if you reach out to us on Facebook or Instagram, we will get back to you. So you can actually email me. I'm on the education team, education@shortcuts.net. And I do check in on social media, or give us a call if you have anything else to talk about with regards to shortcuts. So thank you all for attending. We will make this recording available to you a little bit later today. I look forward to seeing you on the next session. Have a great day.